What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Inside Inter Miami. I'm your host, Andre Fernandez, joined as always by our Inter Miami beat writer, Michelle Kaufman. And it's been a good preseason so far for Inter Miami. They couldn't say that a year ago at this point. A lot of, a debacle that was, a lot of fan complaints, incidents, you name it. This one's going a lot smoother so far. So we're going to dive into that and see how the latest is with the team so far, coming off another victory. Most importantly, on the field, they're doing well. 3 victories, a couple of PK thrillers. Yes, even in exhibitions, these countries like hosting PKs just to see Messi and company win these games in thrilling fashion. And so far, they're obliging. And we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about field invaders, a Panamanian player that wasn't so kind to Messi and drew a red card. We'll talk a little bit about just overall how the team has looked and an important addition as they continue to address what was a big problem last year, which was their defense. They signed Uruguayan defender Maxi Peluca Falcon, who's known for his great defensive play and his big hair. We'll talk to Michelle spoke to Robert Taylor, and we have a clip of Javier Mascherano talking about their latest 3-1 win in Panama. Plus, Michelle's going to fill everybody in on what's the latest with some injury updates to key players, some roster issues, some visa updates. Just how the lineup is kind of forming as we head into the real thing. But let's start with that 3-1 victory over San Miguelito in Panama. How was that, Michelle? And how did the team look to you? And just, let's go on and off the field. It's been pretty eventful.
All right. Well, first of all, it was difficult to watch because the live stream kept going in and out, and it was eventually out for a while. So I couldn't watch every minute of that match because there were technical difficulties. This was not on Apple. It was not on any major TV. It was on the Inter Miami website, and there were technical issues. Apparently, there wasn't even Wi-Fi in the stadium for an extended period. So they had trouble broadcasting the game. So I was able to watch here and there. I heard from some fans that they were able to get some bootleg version where there was some porn pop-ups coming up in the middle. I did not do that one. I watched what I could. From what I saw, yes, they won 3-1. Ben Hakramashi got to start. He came in late to camp, as you remember, because he was in U.S. national team camp, the young American, Argentine-American local kid from Key Biscayne, 19 years old. He started and he scored the first goal just before halftime. So then in the second half, another new player, Tadeo Allende, who's an Argentine player who's here on loan. They just signed him on loan from Celta Vigo in Spain. He was looking for more minutes. He was looking for more playing time, and he's getting that. He got to start the match, and he scored in the second half. And then the third goal was also by a newcomer, by Fafa Picot, which we've mentioned before, Haitian American who spent much of his childhood and young years and teen years, especially in the Miami area. Went to high school here at my alma mater. Go Killian Cougars. Go Fafa Picot. Go Cougars, green and gold. Anyway, he's now wearing pink and black. But so Fafa scored. Dario Allende scored. Ben Hakramashi scored. Messi did not score. Luis Suarez did not score, but those other guys did score, and they ended up winning 3-1, which is a good result for them. They're unbeaten in 3 preseason games under Mascherano. So his first 3 games, he hasn't had any losses. The first 2 games, as you mentioned, were PKs. Went down to PK shootouts. This one was a legit win. They really did dominate. They played pretty well. They still had a few mistakes on defense that I saw, but in general, they played well. They're pressing higher on defense. They're being more aggressive defensively than they were under Tata. That is the big directive that Robert Taylor will talk about when we talk with him later. But the team looks pretty good, like a team coming together. And you mentioned before about this is better than last year. Absolutely. Spoke to, again, Robert Taylor. This part won't be on the video, but he said that it's much better this year, that they're just flying to Latin America, playing the game and flying back. And they're getting to sleep at home, train at their home facility all week and really work on stuff. Whereas last year, they really were just a traveling show, a traveling circus with a lot of off field commitments, and they weren't able to train and focus the way they are now. So last year, like you said, there were debacles with the fans, there were injuries, and a lot of things. This one is going much smoother.
Yeah, much smoother off the field too, like you said, and that was a smart move because, like I said, last year was the rock stars and everything, but I think from you kind of look at it both in a sense of like focusing on the game and also the durability side too. I mean, these are veterans. You don't want to burn them out early in the season, so it looks like they're handling a better job of balancing all of that too. And so a little typical craziness, I guess you could say, also in the game. Field invaders. We've seen it a bunch of times, especially with Messi. But this time, one of them got past his pretty famous bodyguard, who usually has a pretty good record of getting these guys in check before they get anywhere near the superstar. This time, this guy got a hug out of it.
He did. And Yassine Shweko is the bodyguard of Lionel Messi. He has more field time than some of the players on the roster, to be honest. He is
He
on the
needs to.
sideline. He goes up and down and runs up and down. And anytime there's a field invader, he usually out sprints, all of the security guards and the field invader, and he gets there first. By the way, I want to set the record straight. He is not a Navy SEAL. Okay. This is the danger of social media and irresponsible journalism when, if 1 or 2 or 10 people put out a story on a tabloid or on social media that says Navy SEAL bodyguard Yassine Shweko, all of a sudden he's a Navy SEAL. He is not a Navy SEAL. He's not American. He's from France. He is not American. He's not a Navy SEAL. He's tough. He's strong. He's ripped. He's fast. He is a physical specimen. If you look at his Instagram account, it's crazy. I would actually encourage everyone to look at Yassine Shweko's Instagram account because he does things on there. His training sessions, he shows videos of his training sessions, and the man is a beast. There's no question he's a beast. He is not a Navy SEAL. So when you read Navy SEAL, that is inaccurate, fake news. Okay. But yes,
he's built like a Navy SEAL, but he's not a Navy SEAL. Let's make that clear.
He's not a Navy SEAL. Make that clear. But he did, yeah. The guy got past him, got a hug, got a photo. This is not the first time, though, that Messi, the truth is, most of the time, even when the bodyguard gets there, Messi is like, okay, come on, let him, let him get the quick selfie, and then the bodyguard escorts him off the field with the security guards. Messi is very nice pretty much to these fans who come on the field. They almost always get a selfie with him. I did a story about it last year, which is why a lot of these kids do it, because it's worth it to them. Even if they're getting into trouble, they still know that Messi's going to probably be nice enough to let them do a quick selfie, and then they'll be escorted by the bodyguard, and then they're famous to all their friends, and they get to post it on their social media. So that's why it keeps happening. But yes, I know that made the rounds. It went viral on social media, Navy SEAL bodyguard. Okay, it's not Navy SEAL, but yes, the field invader did get past the bodyguard. So that was some of the drama. The other drama I think you mentioned was the red card.
Yeah, the red card. Well, I was going to say before we get to that, was the guy, I could have sworn maybe in the picture, or maybe I didn't see this right. Was he wearing that dolphin themed Inter Miami jersey?
Oh, it might have been. He might have been wearing the dolphin.
That's what it looked like.
The retro shirt. It did look like that. It did look like the retro shirt. And then, the other drama was that these are supposed to be friendly games.
Yeah,
this is a preseason match. And, to take out Lionel Messi, with a hard foul is really, really uncalled for. And Javier Mascherano was asked about it before training. And he said that, it's really, really unfortunate because all of these people that are, want to see Messi, he's not saying just protect him at all costs and no one should touch him, but it's a preseason game. There should not be tackling that hard on somebody like Lionel Messi because all it takes is one injury and no one will get to see him play. So, they need to balance how many minutes, he played 77 minutes, which is a lot. It's the most that he's played. But they have to be careful because if all it takes is one dumb foul and he could be out for months.
There are CEOs at Apple that would have taken that guy out if they could have when they saw that happen, because they're like, "What are you doing? You're about to cost us."
Yes,
I mean, all the interest.
exactly.
It's amazing what a walking gold mine he is for everything, for everybody, and a lot on
Yeah.
the line, as we've discussed at length. But how's he looked? I mean, I know
Well, no,
it's
before
we're
that,
so
let's hear from
yeah. Let's
Robert
hear from
Taylor
Robert
first.
Taylor though. Talk about the team.
Let's hear from Robert Taylor talking about. I asked him how is the team different with Javier Mascherano, and just a little bit more about what he's like as a coach. So let's hear from Robert Taylor about how the team is looking under Javier Mascherano. Hey, Robert, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Just wondering, now that you've been with the new coach Javier Mascherano for a while, what is different? What is different from a coaching standpoint, and what is different from a tactical and strategy standpoint? Every coach has their own different styles. What's different that fans are going to be able to see, and just also from a coaching standpoint?
I think when it comes to footballing side, I think that we're going to try and be a lot more aggressive when we're defending. We want to try and press higher on the teams when they have the ball, and obviously not that much different from when it's on the ball. I feel like the holding onto the ball and having possession is like the main thing there. But yeah, I feel like we have a lot of energy this year, and we're going to try and implement that into our defending.
And what's his sideline demeanor like? What is it like working with him in training and in the games? How is he as a sideline coach?
Yeah, it's great. He's very hands-on. He's giving advice to everyone all the time, and he's very, very passionate. You can see it, and he's very involved.
Players coach. We talked about it.
Yeah. He's a player's coach. Robert Taylor's a guy who he's kind of fighting for minutes. He's and he knows it. He was asked about it. He said, "This is how it is. This is what I signed up for." Especially when you play on a team like this, and they're bringing in some new midfielders. New winger. This Stadio Allende, who scored, is a winger. So that's the position that Robert Taylor plays. Fafa Pico is also a winger. That's the position that Robert Taylor plays. So there's more and more competition, plus the new guys coming in that I'll talk about later who are awaiting visas. It's going to be, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of competition, which you want. I mean, you really want depth. But Robert Taylor, had moments last year and the year prior where he really was a star, where he was playing great with Messi at the very beginning when Messi first got here.
Mhm.
And now he's fighting. He's fighting for minutes on this team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to him, what happens to Julian Gressel. Those are players who are fighting for minutes. They are from the prior regime, from the Tata Martino regime. I was happy to see that Yannick Bright was back in the starting lineup, but I think it may have been also because Fede Redondo was out with an injury. I still maintain that I personally, not that I'm a coach, I always defer to coaches, and I know that they know more than I do, but I thought that Yannick Bright played very, very well last year, and in fact, played better than Redondo for the most part, but Redondo seems to be more of the starter with Yannick Bright coming off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen. Maybe it's a slightly different defensive scheme. Maybe they think Redondo fits a little bit better in this situation. We'll see. I mean, that's stuff that's going to evolve. But I do like the fact that they continue both in practice and as well as far as roster building, continue to address that glaring issue they had last year of being such a bad defensive team. So that approach, at least, I think, would give any fan of this team hope that the offense is there. They know, but maybe this is the missing piece that they needed to get further and actually have a chance to win the MLS Cup this time.
Yeah. No, I definitely think so. I think that they're trying to upgrade the defense. I'm going to talk about Maxi Peluca. He looks kind of like those of you who are old enough to remember Carlos
Pibe.
Valderrama
Yep.
when he played El Pibe from the
Not
Colombian
that big,
star.
but close.
He had a gigantic mop on his head,
Right.
huge curls that went out to here.
Yep.
But this guy also has pretty big hair. Maxi Falcon, pretty big hair. He's from Uruguay. He's been playing in Chile for Colo Colo, has won 7 titles. He has a lot of experience, played in a lot of Copa Libertadores. Javier Mascherano, really, really likes him. I asked him about him because this is a guy they really did need help on the back. Sergey Kristov was, okay, but not fast enough, I think, and they lack some speed in that area. And so I do think center back is an area where they really needed to bolster. And so we're waiting him to get his visa. But he is a guy that Javier Mascherano liked a lot. And I asked him about that. Let's hear what he had to say about Maxi Peluca.
Ya,
Bueno,
¿qué
Maxi,
atrae?
finalmente, sí, durante la semana se concretó su fichaje. Es alguien con el que estuvimos trabajando desde el inicio o gestionamos desde el inicio de la ventana del mercado. Sabíamos que era difícil porque Maxi ha sido un jugador muy importante en Colo-Colo en los últimos años y obviamente Colo-Colo, no, como cualquier otro club, no quería desprenderse de él, pero creo que nos va a ayudar muchísimo. Ahora esperar que termine todo el tema de los papeles del visado y poder tenerlo lo antes posible.
¿Puedes describir cómo él va a ayudar al equipo?
Bueno, es un jugador que tiene experiencia, un jugador que tiene ya roce a nivel internacional en Copas Libertadores, digamos que es un chico que lo conocemos porque digamos, gente de mi staff lo ha tenido en otros equipos, entonces sabemos lo que nos puede dar también, y creo que nos va a aportar también esa cuota de experiencia en la línea defensiva que es lo que también estábamos buscando.
Yeah, Javier Mascherano there talks about how this is a player, Maxi Peluca, which means wig, I think I mentioned, but peluca means wig in Spanish. He said that he's a player that they've been looking at from the start of the preseason. They had him targeted as one of the players that they were trying to get, and that it was very difficult because Colo-Colo did not want to give him up. They had to really negotiate to get him. He was very valuable to that club, but Inter Miami really wanted him. Javier Mascherano has watched him play. He said there are some guys on his staff who have actually worked with him as coaches in the past, so they know what they're getting. He's 27 years old, so he's at a really good age. He's at a prime age. He's not in his 30s. He's not too young. He has a lot of experience, but he's not old. He's not too young. 27 is a great age. And he's a guy that they're really, really high on. And he said that he's going to help the defensive back line is where they were looking to improve. And they were able to sign him and make it official this week.
And a long-term signing from what I was reading till 2028, potentially with an option for 29. So this isn't a rental. This is someone they're counting on for a little bit to be here and be a big part of this back line there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, some of the other new guys they signed, they're also waiting for visas. 21-year-old, again, they're going with some youth, which is good. 21-year-old Telasco Segovia, who's from Venezuela. He was in Portugal playing for a team called Casapia. He's a midfielder who's also going to be competing with all these other midfielders. They have a lot of midfielders and wingers. There's going to be very, very tough competition for those positions. He is waiting for his visa. He's from Venezuela. And then an Argentine defender, yet another defender, 23 years old, Gonzalo Luján. He's coming from San Lorenzo. Both of them are close, apparently, to getting their visa papers finalized. They may be ready not for the Honduras game, but they may be ready for the final preseason game, which is on Valentine's Day in Tampa against Orlando City. And by the way, Javier Mascherano did say that is the game where if there's going to be some rest for Messi and for some of the other players, it's going to be that one. That last game is one where some players are going to need rest because the CONCACAF Champions Cup starts on that next Tuesday. 4 days later, after that Valentine's game, 4 days later, they're going to be in Kansas City, playing Sporting Kansas City in the opening match of CONCACAF Champions Cup. And then 4 days later, on the 22nd, they're playing their home opener of MLS season. So I think from what I could gather from what Mascherano was saying about how much is Messi going to play going forward, he played 65. He played 70. He played 77. What's next? I do believe he'll start against Honduras. I don't know if he'll go the whole game. They may start to scale him back a little bit. He already started talking in ways that Tata used to, which was, oh, Messi knows his body better than anybody. We're going to see how he feels. When they start talking like that, that means that he's probably not going to play 90 minutes against Honduras. And then he said the final game, the final preseason game, is where they really are going to have to be smart as far as resting players, because they have the CONCACAF Champions Cup coming up 4 days later, and 4 days after that, they kick off the MLS season. So don't be surprised if that game in Tampa against Orlando City, they may be resting. I don't know if they'll start, but they certainly are not going to play extended minutes. I don't think any of the key starters would be my guess.
That game, for anybody that watches the NFL, that's kind of like the third throwaway preseason game where you kind of just finally do your last little evaluations. Maybe you evaluate some of the younger talent on your team, but it makes sense because
and some of these guys who are waiting for their visas. Those guys that are waiting for their visas, you now have Peluca waiting for his visa, Segovia waiting for his visa, Lujan waiting for his visa. All of those guys can get extended minutes in that game against Orlando and get their first experience playing on U.S. soil, playing in a big stadium. It's at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, in a big NFL stadium. So they'll get their first experience with that. So I think that's the game where I think some of those players are going to get more minutes. And I would guess that some of the older key starters are probably going to scale back for that last game.
Plus, I think off the field, too. I mean, you wanted to showcase Messi in Peru. You want to showcase him in Honduras. You want to showcase him here and there. But now you're in Tampa. It's the last one. Use it for everybody else. Like, use it for your last fine-tuning you need to do. I think, the gods have had their moment, and now that's it. I think they can get their rest, like I said. So for many reasons, on and off the field, it makes perfect sense for that to kind of be the, I don't want to say throwaway game, but more of the purpose of it being for these guys and to kind of keep everybody fresh, because like you said, it's a quick turnaround and then it's for real. So
yeah, it's a very busy season. They have CONCACAF Champions Cup right away on the 18th. So the Tuesday after that final preseason game, they play at Kansas City, and then they play back here after their season opener. So they have 3 quick, really important games. The CONCACAF Champions opener at Kansas City. 4 days later, they play here, their season opener against NYCFC, the home opener. And then right away after that, they play again here, the CONCACAF Champions Cup second leg against Kansas City. And then remember, in addition to CONCACAF Champions Cup and MLS regular season, they've got the Club World Cup that everyone is so excited about, and they are going to play starting in mid-June. They're playing with the likes of, Real Madrid and Chelsea and these teams.
All the big teams.
So, it's a huge tournament. So they have a very long season. That's one of the reasons they really wanted to sign some good players, so that there's a lot of competition, but also these guys are not going to be able to play every game with MLS, CONCACAF Champions Cup, and the Club World Cup and Leagues Cup. Let's not forget the USA Mexico MLS Leagues Cup. So there are 4 tournaments that they're playing in this year, and they're going to have to divvy up who plays when.
Demasiado. That's a word for too much in Spanish.
Too much. I think it's too much.
For those of you that are itching just to see any image of this team as the season draws closer, I know Michelle got some footage of training, them basically, warming up, practicing, training a little bit. So as we watch this here, Michelle, let's wrap this up by talking a little bit more about what's on the injury front, Drake Callender, Redondo, Martinez, guys like that. What's the latest on when those guys might be available?
Yeah. As you watch a train, if you look with your binoculars, if you see, first of all, I want to say that this is what we get to see in the media. I just want everyone to know, we get to see the first 15 minutes. We get to see the first 15 minutes of training. And this is what you're getting to see, a little clip. 15 minutes of training, which is basically rondos. The rondos where they kick the ball around in a circle. Yep. That's pretty much what we get to see. Stretching, and rondos. We don't get to see anything tactical. They
Yep.
kick us out way before that. But Drake Callender is out there, which is nice to see. Drake had been out, as you all know. He got injured during the U.S. national team camp, and it's been a tough time for him because Ustadi, let's face it, Ustadi has that Argentine passport that we talked about, the prerequisites for being
Top of the
a member of
resume.
this team, the resume. Oscar Ustadi is 38 years old. He is Messi's good friend. He has an Argentine passport, and he's Messi's friend. And with Drake out, Ustadi became the starter, at least for now, in the preseason. And he played well in this last game in Honduras. So now Drake, even though he's been a co-captain of this team, he's going to have to fight back for his starting
Interesting.
position. Do not be surprised. There are some rumors out there that there are teams interested in him in MLS. This guy is a U.S. national team caliber goalkeeper. And if Inter Miami feels that Oscar Ustadi is the guy they want and that they can get big money for Drake Callender, there are rumors floating around that there are teams interested in Drake Callender, that he's a player who has value on this team to other MLS teams. And they never were willing to get rid of him because he was the starting keeper. But all of a sudden now he gets injured. He's been out. Oscar Ustadi steps up to the plate, and he's Messi's friend. He's from Argentina. It's going to be, let me just put it this way. Keep your eye on the goalkeeper battle, and it is going to be a battle. Drake is back in training, and I know how competitive he is. He's soft-spoken and everything, but the guy is competitive. He's worked very hard to get to this point and to be a co-captain, and I know that he wants to stay. So it's going to be a real interesting battle at goalkeeper. So keep an eye on that, and we will keep an eye on that. I will keep an eye on that and keep reporting on that story. As far as other injuries, Fede Redondo is back in training. He was out with a muscle strain, but he was out. He was back again at training. And then David Martinez, it turned out that he got injured in a closed-door scrimmage that we knew nothing about. This injury, he got kicked in the leg and he had to have stitches and everything. The stitches were removed. Also, his wife just had a baby. So he missed a few days of training, but he was expected to be coming back in these days also. So when we talk about that game against Orlando, that could be a game that Drake Callender, if he's ready to go, that could be a game that Drake Callender gets to come back and play. And then Fede Redondo, David Martinez, these guys who have been a little bit knocked, they will probably get to play in that last game against Orlando. But yeah, I wanted to show some footage of the training just so you guys can see. This is what Inter Miami training looks like anyway, the first 15 minutes. The media's on the side. As you can see, it's not as large of a media horde as it was back at the beginning when there were 400 reporters. There are now between 10 and 20. So it's calmed down. The Messi mania, as I have mentioned, it's calmed down a little bit. The luster, the novelty has worn off a little. And by the way, I heard that the ticket sales for the ticket sales in the other countries is huge. In Peru, they had a packed house. I'm sure in Honduras, they're going to have a packed house. I've heard that the ticket sales in Tampa have not been as good as they were hoping. And now when the word gets out that Messi may be playing limited minutes, I don't know how the ticket sales will do, but I've heard that the ticket sales are so for that game. So it'll be interesting to see how many show up at Raymond James Stadium for that game.
Yeah, don't expect a spike. And if once people know he's not going to be very likely not to play at all. And but nonetheless important for this team, like you said. I mean, still a lot of personnel decisions and things of that nature, and guys that do need the time to come back and get those reps that have been hurt, like Drake's potentially in that game. So we'll have it covered for you as we go along here and on Inside Inter Miami. So as always, we appreciate you watching. Remember, you can catch us on YouTube or at MiamiHerald.com. Catch all of Michelle's work there as well. And then, of course, if you can only listen to us, catch us on Spotify, iTunes.
And this is where you can get, right. And this is where you can get reliable. We are a reliable source. For example, you learned today lots of things, but you also learned that Yassine Chueco is not a Navy SEAL. So
Right.
if you come to Inside Inter Miami, you really do get the inside scoop from on the ground reporters who are here in Miami and who are giving you reliable news.
There you go. On that note, thank you for watching Inside Inter Miami, your reliable source for the local soccer club, the global brand. And you're only going to see that here too, apparently. Well, from someone that's not Lionel Messi. So until next week, for Michelle Kaufman, I'm Andre Fernandez. Thanks for watching, everybody.